Hi, I'm Mark Gibbs at the Great Outdoors Nursery in Austin, Texas, and we are in the nursery today. Spring has been teasing us. A week ago Sunday, we were at 29. This past Saturday, here we are at 84 during the day. So it is spring, kinda, depending on where you're at, but this is a great time of year to be looking at doing cuttings for plants. And why I mention cuttings is a lot of times you may have a plant from Graham's yard or a plant from Granddad's yard that maybe is a special plant to you memory-wise, thought-wise. Could be a rose bush, could be a shrub. All of those types of plants are great for doing cuttings on. It could be something you just can't find in a nursery somewhere, and maybe your neighbor has one and you'd like to get a piece of it. And this is a great way to preserve plants like that and pass them on. It's a fun project also, just visually to learn how to do it. And the repetition, it's just a few steps in the skills. And once you start to getting that down, you're much more confident as you do more. So again, you can do roses, you can do vines, you can do trees, you can do shrubs. They all root at different rates, but you're going to get the same response. And that's a nice baby plant ready to be personalized and put wherever you want it. Today, we're going to talk about some of the supplies you need right up front. I'm using some little 2-inch pots to start ours in, but you can get the fiber pots in a square size or round size. These are great because these can be put right into your landscape. Once the guy is rooted out, you're going to see those roots permeating and you pot this right in the ground. No transplanting needed. Or you can do the starter plugs. These are really cool. These are just fiber plugs. And again, it's already got the pour there for your cutting. You'd have this in a tray typically. Put some water in the tray and let this wick up. You're going to want to start with this moist and then let it go through a normal dry out cycle. We don't want to keep them damp and soggy, again, because those roots are going to need some air to breathe. So we need to go through a typical dry out cycle just to let it perk back up and let those roots start pushing. You're going to want to start them in a full sun area. Outdoors is great, but if it's going to be below 55, you'll want to bring them in at night just to keep them a little stable and not let that soil temperature get too cold. We do have the different starter trays. And then we do have the seed and cutting blend. So this isn't a hocus pocus thing with the seed and cutting blend. It's a very light, fluffy blend. You want to start with your blend a little moist. If I put this blend in here dry and I put all my cuttings in here and went to water it, they would disappear down in here because there's so much air in that soil. It's really, really light, fluffy soil. So as I put the soil in, I'm going to water that. And again, I'm not going to just flood it, but I want to get that true plateau, so I need to know how much soil I can add to get up to the top of my cell. So definitely remember that, even if you're doing it in pots immediately, you want to have that a little bit moist so you get a true plateau and your cutting doesn't disappear and have too shallow of a root system to establish. So I've chosen to work with a little quince here. And the other thing that I'm going to be looking at with you is how you would actually go about working with a rooting hormone or a rooting gel. When you have the gels or the hormones, you want to take a little bit out and have it separate from the storage container itself. That way, after you've used it, you can pour it off. Don't put it back in the container. We don't want to repurpose it because you never know what may be out there dormant on the cutting you're taking. Good X-Acto blade, razor knife, something like that. I've got my knife here to make my cuts with. So I'm going to get about a 6 to 8 inch piece of cutting. And I want to get it at least a 1/4 inch beneath a set of leaf nodes. So I'm going to come down on this guy all the way to where he attaches to mama. I've got it beneath this node. I'm going to peel the leaves off that node. And then we're going to use the tip of our X-Acto knife or razor blade. And this is one of the most important things. We could put the rooting hormone on here and it would just try to put roots off on this little nub. That's going to take a while and not go as fast. So I want to take the tip of my knife or razor and make a vertical cut down through the side of this stem. Usually I try to make 3 through that epidermis. This is a pretty skinny one, so I'm going to leave it at 2 because I got a pretty good opening on that first one. Then we want to take a little bit of our powder, separate it out. Doesn't really take much. And then I'm going to roll my cutting in that powder. I want to roll it really nice and get all that powder around those wounds that I've opened up with that vertical cut. Now, when we've got our soil in our pot already, if I just took this and shoved it in there, you know what's going to happen. All of that powder is going to wash off. So you want to start with a little pour. Make it at least down to your first knuckle there. We want to nest this guy in there. And then just gently put that soil back up against the base. Really, really gentle. We don't want to come in here and compact all this again. We want the water to do that for us naturally. On cuttings like this, I would typically come in with a mister, and I would mist it and mist it and mist it until I saw it running off down through the bottom. If I came in with a watering can and tried to water this again, exactly what's going to happen, it's going to peel off all that rooting hormone, and I've defeated the purpose of even putting it on there. The rooting hormone also has some fungicidal properties, so it's going to keep the soil healthy around that cutting so we don't get any disease in case it does get a little too wet. So just be careful on the moisture level and how wet you're going to keep it. Now I'm going to put this cute guy in a good sunny spot. If I see any stressing, which just means these leaves may start laying down, I may get some shock from it. I could take off an inch or so, just so the stem and the cutting is not having to put out so much energy supporting that top side, and that'll let it focus on trying to get those new roots established. From here on, I'll probably have a saucer under here. I'll do that misting for watering for the first couple of weeks. And then as I see that soil tightening up, I'll probably transfer to just water from a wand or something, but it's not going to be like, you know, thunderstorm action. It needs to be very, very gentle. We don't want to wash off that powder, but we do need that surface tension on those new roots to let this guy be stable. So that's literally how simple it is to do a cutting. Now, people will go, well, I'm going to put it in a jar and just root it in water. I love this principle. I think I've mentioned it before. I'm going to say it again. When you put a plant in water, the roots are floating in water. There is no surface tension. There's no weight on those roots. We take those beautiful, fine, fluffy roots and we put them in soil, and then we pack it all down. Well, we've just crushed all of that root surface that's had no tension on it. And yes, it's going to grow roots again and it's going to look great, but it's going to have to start over. We think we've got a phenomenal root system and that's why it looks so good, but it's going to take it another cycle to wake back up. So if you are doing cuttings like that, put them in the soil, add a little water to the soil and let the water get the roots down around the system without doing any compacting. Just keep adding water till you're up over that root system and you're good to go. The water will put the surface tension there that's light enough and get the soil all the way around the root system without any compaction going on. And you won't have spared those roots to compaction and the damage that you have on this beautiful cutting you've had in a jar somewhere. So we're going to come back in a few minutes and give you another little fun one. This is one of my favorite ones. It's going to be an air layering cutting. So this will be our first one. Come back and join us in a little bit, and we'd love for you to see the air layering one. And if you have any questions, come in the nursery or give us a call. We'd be glad to help you out.